What's going on, guys? Welcome to the LowKick MMA UFC Fight Night Lewis vs Oleinik recap show. I'm your host, Ryan Galloway, and joining me today is Jordan Ellis. Jordan, how you going, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Fantastic. A bit of earlier one than usual for you. How's that?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a madhouse. So unfortunately, we didn't get to do a podcast last week. Well, we did do it, but it went tits up basically due to technical difficulties. And I've been moving house and things like that. So it's been a bit of a mad one. So sorry we weren't there last week. But we've got a great card to break down right now. So look forward to getting into it.
Yeah, for sure. And to be honest, about this event, one of the better cards we've had this year, in my opinion. Definitely probably the best preliminary card we've had all year. This preliminary card on this one was fantastic. All the fights on it were great. There's a couple on the main card which were lackluster-esque, but none of them were terrible. But we'll jump in from the top. The main event between Derek Lewis and Alexei Oleinik. I was mind blown when Wrestler Lewis came out and he went and took down Oleinik. It was game changing. You know, you think of Derek Lewis as this big puncher, that's all he's got, can land a big shot. But in this one, he showed he's been working on his wrestling and he took him down. Maybe it was for nothing, maybe he got nothing out of it, but it made a statement. What do you think?
Yeah, it was when you're watching it as a fan, I'm kind of just sitting there going, "What's he doing? Like, what's he doing right now? Why is what like he could have got up at some points and he was choosing to reverse the position and sit on top where Olenek is so dangerous. You know, even when you've got him mounted, he's so dangerous. But and then it really backfired on him really because he ended up in a really tight choke and he had to wait it out. And credit to him for being so tough for hanging on and Olenek just weren't able to get it. But just overall, Lewis kind of did what I expected him to do. I expected him to go in and get a quick knockout, and he was in a couple of hairy situations which you're always gonna have to survive against Oleinik, but he got it in the end, and it was a beautiful knockout when it came.
I was thinking that he'd get a finish, but I did not expect him to even engage on the ground. Like, obviously, Alexei Olenik's a submission expert. Everyone knows this. He knew it going in. I'm sure he trained his grappling for hours and hours preparing for this one. So for him to go out there and engage in the grappling, just crazy. And now he wants Curtis Blades. So if he wants that fight, he's going to have to do some more grappling. But I think we're seeing Derek Lewis evolve every fight. He gets better and better. I maybe the Latifi fight's an exception. He didn't look substantially better in that than he has otherwise. But his other fights, he's getting better. After that loss to DC, he's come back. I think if he really puts in the time to work on his takedown defense, he's gonna be a big problem because he hits hard. No one's surviving when he hits them. You know, if he hits you, you're going out. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
In terms of who's next, I think he also mentioned Overeem and Ngannou, who I think are much better fights for him. I think Blades is, stylistically that's a bit of a nightmare for him, and for the fans it's also a bit of a nightmare because it'd be boring as anything. So I think Overeem is probably the fight because even though Overeem, he does rely on his wrestling a bit more these days. He's obviously there to be hit, and Lewis, the most knockouts in heavyweight history. He'll be confident of testing that chin, and also with Ngannou, he's beat him. Ngannou needs to fight while he's wait. Is he just going to wait around on Ngannou, or can he go and get a win back over Lewis, who's got a win over him? So they're two big fights I'd prefer over Blades. I know Blades is calling it, and they're both calling it, but I'm sure the build up be fun and they'd speak a lot of crap. But come fight night, I don't think it'd be much up to much that fight. So hopefully we don't get that one. Just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I think we will get that one. I'm telling you why. Because both fighters have agreed to it, and they're right there in the standings. I think we'll get it. And also, Overeem's got to fight Augusto Sakai. That's booked, I'm pretty sure, coming up soon. So if Overeem gets damaged in that one, who knows how long he's going to be out. I can't imagine Ngannou saying he'll rematch Derek Lewis at this point. I think he's going to sit. I mean, the title fight's next weekend, so he doesn't have to sit out that long until he gets his shot. I'm telling you, I'd put money on it. It'll be Curtis Blades, and it'll be a boring fight, Or they could prove me wrong, and Curtis Blades could come out there, the striker, like he did against JDS, and put on a show.
Yeah, and then also you've got the fact that Lewis is saying he wants to lose 15 to 20 pounds to before he's going in with these big guys, so he could have a little bit of a layoff if he's a man of his word and he actually wants to do that. So looking forward to it. He's clearly got a lot of talent and things like that, but he's coming in at 265. He's one of the smaller guys really in terms of height, and um but he is carrying a bit of extra weight, and if he can get that off, he's already one of the best. It'll just make him better. So looking forward to seeing him back against one of the best, and hopefully, in the best shape of his life.
Yeah, for sure. And Alexei Oleinik, on the other hand, he's been in the top 10 for a while now. He took some losses there. He lost to Overeem. Who else did he lose to? He lost to Haqparast, didn't he? So he's had a few losses, but he comes back and puts little streaks together, like a couple of wins in a row, and he'll be back in the top 10. And I see him doing this after this fight as well. I think he's still there. He's still a top contender. He really needs that 60th win because that's insane. So I think they're going to give him someone lower ranked, obviously. He's going to come back. He'll have a couple of wins, and then we'll see him against someone else in the top 5 or 10.
So Oleinik, obviously, he's 43 years old now, and he shouldn't really be where he is. He's top 10 in the division. He's able to beat all these great guys, but it kind of is more a reflection of how bad the heavyweight division is. The fact that he's top 10, he's 43 years old, he's a submission specialist. He's got a one trick, and he seems to get it over and over again on these guys. So hopefully, we can get the heavyweight back up and running once this trilogy fight's over, and we can see it flourish once we get more title shots more often. I think that'll be good for the division.
For sure. Okay, we'll move on to the co-main event, which was Omari Akhmedov welcoming back the former champion, Chris Weidman. Probably one of the worst fights on the card, in my opinion. One of the most boring. Both guys gassed. They both looked tired. Neither guy did anything crazy that was really impressive. Maybe that banana split that Weidman put on him, but he was never going to tap from that one. For Chris Weidman to come back and win a decision like that, it doesn't put him in good standing in my opinion. Akhmedov might be ranked number 11, but Chris Weidman his return. We expected him to put on a show and stake claim to like top 10, get a big fight next. And he said, "Oh, middleweight division, you're on watch." If I'm in the top 10, I'm not taking a fight against Chris Weidman unless I really need it. Maybe if I'm a Darren Till, like coming off a loss, needs a winnable fight. Maybe that's a good fight for Darren Till because I think he smashes Weidman, right? So that might be a good fight for him. Or if I'm Marvin Vettori, I'm looking to get into the top 10 and I want to fight, Chris Weidman's the man. But if I'm a top guy who's on a win, coming off a win, why would I take on Chris Weidman,
Yeah, it's a tough spot for Chris because obviously he needs to win. He's lost, I think his father's last 6, so he needed that win, and he fought like someone who needed the win. He was very cautious, and he just wrestled his way to victory. And sometimes you've got to do what you got to do to get back in the win column, and it can be half your paycheck getting a win and a loss. So no diss on Chris Weidman, but obviously for us fans, it was poor watching. Also, just for anyone in the middleweight division, no one's going to be really too worried about Weidman. Does he look like a contender? He's saying everyone's on watch. I don't think anyone's on watch. I don't think anyone's bothered by that performance. He looked, don't want to say, terrible or anything like that, because he got a clear win. He dominated the fight against a tough guy who's picked up wins over Heinisch and a draw with Vettori. So it's not a bad win, but from where Weidman is, you would expect them to, fight a bit, be a bit more aggressive. He fought a bit scared. He just looked like he needed the win. So, I'm happy for him because obviously he's so talented and you don't want to see someone that talented on a losing streak. The only other fight I would think of is Brunson.
Yep.
And that's not because I think Brunson would really want that fight. I just think Weidman is still a name. He's still relevant. And if you can't get someone above, Weidman's probably the best other option. And especially off that performance, no one's going to be worried about fighting Weidman right now. So, I think someone will take the fight against Weidman, and then it's up to him to, go and capitalize on it because now he's in the win column. There's no need to fight like that again. And hopefully we can see him, push on. But we're in a great fight at all.
I'm thinking more of Vettori. I think Vettori's the best pick for it, right? Like if you're going to pick someone to fight him. Or I could see, what's his name? Edmund Shabazian, right? Because Brunson just won. Shabazian's taking a step back. Maybe they do that. Maybe if they're trying to build Shabazian still, if they really want to build him, and you give him someone like Weidman, he takes out Weidman, he's right back to where he was before he fought Brunson. So they're both options. Not a lot to say about that fight. It wasn't the best. Moving on to the fight before it between Maki Patolo and Darren Stewart. I'll throw it to you to break down that one, even though it was a one-rounder, so there's not a lot there.
It was a really good fight for what it was. It was I thought Patolo was winning up until the end, I thought he looked quite good, and what did he do? He dived in for a takedown in the end, didn't he? And just got caught. But Darren Stewart always looked dangerous throughout that fight, and I was always confident. When we spoke, even though it didn't go to air in the end, I did pick Darren Stewart just because I thought he had a bit more experience about him, a bit more. He'd beat better guys and things like that. And although he was losing the early goings, or barely losing the early goings, let me just say, but he just always looked a bit dangerous. He was swinging big. He seemed confident. He seemed dangerous. And in the end, he just snatched that neck up, and it was a tight squeeze, and Patolo had to tap. But yeah, good win for Stewart, and he needed that after the last one.
For sure, I was impressed with both guys. They both look really good. But yeah, beautiful submission. 3 minutes 40 seconds is round one, so not a lot. Yeah, real short fights. Actually, I think most of the finishes came early in this card, right? All the finishes that happened. But good fight. Both guys are probably going to go on and get good opponents next because it was an enjoyable fight to watch, and they deserve it. And neither of them are ranked, so it's not really like stocks involved in this one. Neither guy's gonna drop too far in opposition after that. Yeah, good fight. Before that one, we had the women's bantamweight fight between Yana Kunitskaya and Julia Stoliarenko. That's something like that. This fight was one of the other ones that I wasn't too impressed with. Obviously, Kunitskaya dominated it. She put her in the clinch and hit her with knees and hit her with body shots and just beat her. Wouldn't engage on the ground with her, which is smart because there's one time she did engage in the ground with her. She almost got caught in an armbar. Yeah. Dominant performance by Kunitskaya. What do you think?
I hated this fight and everything about it, especially as a UK guy, and it's probably about 2:30, 3 in the morning at this point, and you get these doing this, and this is just a terrible advert for not even just women's MMA, just MMA generally, because obviously Kunitskaya, she got in, she got the win, she dominated. Fair play to her. She pushed on the cage, and it's not the most entertaining, but that's what she had to do to stifle her opponent, and fair dues for that. But Stoliarenko just seemed content to, I don't know, just threaten with pulling guard all the time. I don't know what her plan was. So in terms of coming to the UFC, or I think it was a return to the UFC, it weren't impressive at all. It seems like she got that arm bar and she's going to the well with it, and that's all she's got really, because she just had no answer to be impressed against the cage. Once you're not able to get the submission, you need to push off and start throwing strikes and things like that. So yeah, they weren't a great fight for either girl. Obviously Yana got the win, and she'll go on and she'll probably get another big fight now. But Julia, in terms of UFC debuts or UFC returns, whatever it was, I'm not impressed with that one. I hated this fight. Obviously the Weidman one weren't the most entertaining, but there was some competitiveness there where Akhmedov was able to defend and put his own stuff together, and it was fairly entertaining in comparison to that fight, which was dominant, just someone holding someone against the fence. It weren't a great fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think Stoliarenko reminds me of Ronda without the takedowns, right? Because she's got that armbar, which is what Ronda had. She was armbarring everyone, but Ronda could take people down, which was a threat. Whereas this woman seems like she can't get people down. So how are you going to get those arm bars? Are you just going to bank on them taking you down? At this level in the UFC, you can't rely on that. You need a more versed skill set. But in her defense, in the early going to the fight, when they were striking as the fight started, she looked like the heavier puncher and she looked like the better striker. But props to Kunitskaya for realizing that quickly and just pushing her on the cage. Neither one really impressed me too much here. I want to see what Kunitskaya does next, because when she fought, I think she fought Aspen Ladd before this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when she fought Aspen Ladd,
I think she got stopped.
She did get stopped in the third round, and I thought she was doing really well in those first 2 rounds, and then it was in the third she got stopped. So I think she's like a better fighter in the weight division, So I'm sure she'll get another higher ranked person next, and we'll see how she fares there.
Yeah, she's got a few good wins on her record, and she's looked good, and she dominated this fight. So what more do you want? She shut down the game of her opponent, and in terms of I'm sure coaches are happy and people like that, but obviously for the fans, it weren't a great watch. And as you were just saying about Stoliarenko, she's going to the well with that armbar, but she's not aggressive like Ronda Rousey. She was pretty timid in terms of her pursuit of it. she weren't committed to dropping down and trying to go for it. So plenty of work, but she was coming in good form, and clearly she's a good fighter. It was just maybe Yana was really good, and she shut it down. So props to her.
Yeah, well, opening the card, we had a first-round knockout by Beneil Dariush over Scott Holtzman. And I said this when we did preview the card, which we didn't have because it was busted with technical difficulties. But I said Dariush is one of the better fighters in the division, and I don't think he was ranked coming into this, or he might have been 15. No, he's unranked, I'm sure. But he should be ranked. He is a great guy. He could be top 10. He could be top 15, sorry, I don't know about top 10. He's a really good fighter, and he proved it. He come out there, he was dominating for the most part. He looked really good, and then he did a little spin and put him out. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Benail was speaking in the lead up to this, saying how disappointed he was that he didn't get a ranked guy, and that he was fighting Scott Holtzman, which is fair enough because he is really talented. I think he's ranked 14 now. I think that might be new, or I don't know. But he's in the rankings, and he's on a tear, and he picked up a big win over Drakkar Klose. So there's no reason why he should be fighting outside the rankings, and I think that was just a statement win for him, where you can bet anything his next fight is going to be against someone ranked. They're not giving him someone like that again, and he made a statement. He scored a massive spinning back fist, and it's just a shame he come in overweight, because that means no bonus for him, which clearly, so he's just lost 50k there on top of his 30% that he's probably give up. So I'm just looking forward to seeing him again. I think anyone 15 to 10. You could match him up with Drew Dober. I like.
They already fought.
Gillespie.
He submitted Dober.
Have they? Did he? Well, he can go again because Dober's back in the mix now, and he's on a bit of a tear himself. But you got Gillespie, and you've got Islam Makhachev. So there's plenty of fights there, and there's no reason he shouldn't be fighting ranked guys, because I'm pretty sure all these guys are looking for fights right now. I can't think of anyone 11 to 15 or 10 to 15 who are matched up. So let's get it going.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing, because he obviously submitted Dober, if I'm right. I think I'm right. I could be wrong. But the thing that really ruined his traction before was the fact that he got stopped by Hernandez, right? That was Dariush who got stopped by Hernandez? I'm pretty sure on his debut.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So I think that was what really stumped his traction for a little bit there. But he's come back and just looked better than ever. So, and Hernandez is out of the rankings now. So you've got to give him someone higher. I liked the names you brought up. I think the Dober rematch is probably a good one, because I rate Dober so highly, and I think in a rematch it'd be a more even fight. Obviously, caught him in a submission. That can happen to everyone. But I would like to see that one, or the Gillespie fight, because just as you brought him up, what has Gregor Gillespie been doing? How is he still in the rankings? Like, he hasn't fought since he got finished by Kevin Lee. It's crazy. So maybe match him up with there, or match someone up with Gregor, because he needs a fight.
Yeah, but when you got knocked out like that, you best take as much time as you can. And it was a vicious one. It was a vicious one to win it. So I'm sure there's something going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing or hearing about, and it's probably not good for him. So, but just anyone in rankings, he'll get someone in rankings, and that's a good streak now. There's a couple good names on that streak from Dariush, a couple of big knockouts. I think what did he get? 3 performances nights on the row before this one, and he obviously would have got a performance night if he weren't overweight. So, make weight, get a ranked guy, get another performance bonus. He's cracked it at the minute. He's in great form, and I think he's a great age. I think he's only about 30. So, he's ready to go, and he can make a run now.
For sure. And so we'll jump onto the prelims. We'll just grab a few of them, but I'm sure there's a couple here we'll talk about. Obviously, the big one everyone's going to want to talk about, Kevin Holland, coming in after a week. He was meant to fight last weekend. But to be honest, his opponent's coming in after a fight a week ago as well. So both of them returning pretty quickly. Obviously, Holland didn't fight. His opponent, I'll talk about first. He looked really good. His biggest problem was he was throwing all his power straight away. He was just going to get tired. He can't sustain the amount of energy he was throwing into all his punches. But he looked like he did, right? He didn't look like any less dangerous in that second round or anything. He just got caught. Holland, the way longer fighter, probably the, I wouldn't say more technical fighter. He was a more scrappy fighter, I guess. He was pulling that clinch, throwing elbows, trying to get that knee up the center, I think Holland won every moment of the fight, but I was still impressed with Buckley. I would like to see him drop down to welterweight if he can make the weight, though, because he looked really small, and I don't know if that's because Holland's huge or if he's small for the division. But yeah, Holland obviously finished him in the third. Beautiful knockout. How'd you see that one?
Yeah, it was a good fight. It's just another, I think Kevin Holland, if he can put some momentum together in terms of wins and consecutive wins, and he could be a star because he's got everything about him. He's really entertaining to watch. He's clearly got personality, and it shows in the cage. I do think um he's a bit hittable. Like, he does unawful lot things, and sometimes zigs when he should zag, and someone will make him pay, for that type of thing. And fortunately for Holland, on that night it weren't Joaquin Buckley. He was swinging big and he looked dangerous, but he weren't able to actually get anything off. And then when the knockout come, it was beautiful. So, props to Holland. He's one of the gamest guys in the sport, full stop, and he's always ready for a fight. So I'm sure we'll see him in the next month or two again, and he'll be impressing everyone again. And yeah, I'm fully I wouldn't say I'm on the hype train, because I don't think he's of that level yet, because there's clearly some little issues he needs to iron out. But I'm a really, really, I'm a fan of him, and if he's on the card, I'm always looking forward to him. So hopefully another one soon. And Joaquin Buckley, he can come again. There's no reason why he would get cut after that performance. It was impressive. He looks UFC level. He can compete and beat a lot of these guys, and I hope he does.
Yeah, well, one thing after the fight that really surprised me was Kevin Holland talking about cutting down to welterweight, right? Because I think he came in under for middleweight. He's so big. He's 6'3", I think. Would he be the biggest welterweight if he cut down there? I think he would.
Yeah, there's a few guys like that though. Yeah, if he's coming in underweight, and he's been going on about this cut for a while now, just do it. I'm sure he knows his own body, and as impressive as he's been at middleweight, he has lost also, and so if he can get that size advantage, and he's confident in making the weight, I want to see it. He just seems a game guy, and he was talking about fighting at light heavyweight last week, and now he's speaking about welterweight. So I'm sure we'll see him move about these divisions throughout his career, and it'll be up and down. And that means he can always get a fight wherever he wants.
He wants Mike Perry. What do you reckon of that one?
It's a good fight. Everyone wants Mike Perry though, don't they? Like, Mike Perry is, he's the lower level guy with the higher caliber name. So I'm sure everyone will be calling out. But I think that'd be a really fun big fight, because that's a similar fight to what we've seen from Buckley, where it is a power against, a bit of flair from Holland. So you've got to be careful against Perry, because he is dangerous on the feet, and but it'd be really fun. I like that one.
Yeah, for sure. Another one I'll grab off the prelims was Nasrat Haqparast versus Alexander Munoz. The Olympic wrestler Munoz, that's all he wanted to do. He wanted to wrestle. He wasn't really interested in the striking, and because of that, he just got pieced up. And fairly dominant performance by Haqparast, which he needed, because I think he was coming off 2 losses, or maybe just 1. He lost to Dober, I know that. So he needed a win here, and he went out and he got it. What did you think of that fight?
I think he looked good. I think he looked almost disrespectful of Munoz on the feet. He was just bulldozing forward and not really worried. Obviously he's coming off a knockout loss, and to go in with that confidence in his chin after being knocked out cold, it's impressive, and maybe a bit reckless if anything, but he just had no respect for Munoz on the feet, and Munoz tried and tried and tried, but he was just getting hurt and pieced up, and it was a good win. It was a good way to get back into the mix. I think he's only 24, so he's an exciting one to keep an eye on. That was a good win. He's been doing well, and before that loss, things were going well, so I'm sure he's back on it now.
Yeah, and one thing that weird takeaway from this fight, but it was mine. Munoz is an Olympic wrestler, right? And everyone rats on Askren for not having any striking, and he is an Olympic wrestler too. But it just shows how good Askren was at wrestling, that he went out there with his ability and was able to take people down nonstop. Whereas you get someone like Munoz, who's just as good on paper a wrestler, but it's different in MMA, right? And he just can't put it together as well as Askren could. So that was one takeaway. I was like, well, Askren's insane MMA wrestler. So for Munoz, he needs to work on his striking, because he needs to be more complete. He doesn't have the wrestling caliber in MMA to just enforce his will and get the takedown. We saw it. Haqparast sprawled on 7 of 8 takedowns or something like that. He got 1 takedown immediately, which was out the gate where he rushed him and got him. But the rest of the fight, he didn't get any takedowns. He got sprawled on every single time. And if that's happening, you need to realize that you're Like, you don't have the strength that you think you have in that area in MMA. Sure, on the wrestling mats he's a beast, but in MMA it's not working. He needs to get his striking more crisp, so he can threaten takedowns off his strikes, which at the moment he's not doing.
Yeah, and in terms of his career, I think he was 6-0 before he got this call up, it's very early, and he probably could have done with, staying outside the UFC until he was at least a 10-0 fighter, and, build his other things, because as soon as you get to UFC, you're fighting people like Nasrat, which is just a nightmare. He is fringe top 15, which, it's a tough fight for anyone, especially in your debut. So, and if you've only got that one weapon, you're gonna get found out quite quickly, and hopefully they drop him down a couple levels. He can have a nice little run in the UFC now, because I'm sure every camp he'll come back a better fighter. He'll look more polished in the stand up. He'll mix in his takedowns a bit better and be a bit more elusive with them. So, yeah, it's obviously it's a loss, but losing a decision to Nasrat is no shame, and especially as a 6-0 fighter. So he'll be back.
Well, I'll hand it to you. Any other fights on the prelims you want to touch on?
Well, the one that topped it was Tim Means against Strapoli, which was probably one of my my favorite fight tonight. I thought it was a great fight. I think both fighters looked really tough. It was just a war. It was a bit of a war, and Tim Means, he toughed it out and he got that win, and I was very happy for him, because he's a nice guy, and well, he comes across as a nice guy anyway. So, really, really good win, really good fight, and I don't think I could have left it without mentioning that. And then a few fights before that, we had Andrew Sanchez against Wellington Truman, which was Terman, is it? Sorry. He looked weird. It was crazy. He looked great on the feet, and he scored a brilliant knockout. So again, just shout out to him. That was beautiful stuff.
Yeah, no, that was a good fight, and obviously I think it was a straight right he put him down with from memory, and yeah, good knockout. I think they were both grapplers, right? And neither guy grappled. It was a striking match, so one of those fights, right?
Yeah, and he was standing like Machida. He had that karate stance going, and he was zigging in and out, and it was, it is funny when these wrestlers, decide to just become karate experts overnight. It's at least from our point of view. So yeah, really good fight. And what else did we have? We had Gavin Tucker looked really good against Justin James, and they kept saying on the commentary, we just want Gavin Tucker to be more consistent in terms of having fights.
Yeah,
because he looked brilliant, and Justin James was coming off a big win as well. So he's clearly a great fighter, and he toughed it out. But in the end, he got caught, and Gavin Tucker made a statement. He was one of the stars of the shows, in my opinion. And he got a performance of the night bonus for it too. So obviously the UFC people thought he was as well.
Last thing I want to touch on before we wrap it up, Yusuf Zalal spinning back kick to the face of Peter Barrett. Didn't finish him. That was really early. I think it was the first round, really early in the first round. But that was a crazy shot. It hit him right in the chin, put him down flat. Impressive stuff. Obviously, he dominated that fight as well. Peter Barrett didn't look terrible, but he was like levels, right? You could see Zalal was the better fighter on the day. So props to Yusuf Zalal for that one. Anything else?
No. Obviously for Peter Barrett, that was a tough debut. Zalal's he's one of the prospects I'm looking out for. And when Steve Garcia drops out and you get Yusuf Zalal, it is an opportunity, but it's also a really tough fight for anyone in that division. Never mind, a UFC newcomer. So, unfortunate for Barrett that he's run into someone who's kind of hot right now. So, Yusuf Zalal's another one I'm really looking forward to seeing in there again as soon as possible, and seeing his rise to the top.
For sure. Well, we'll wrap that one up there. Obviously, we got the big card coming up this weekend. UFC 252, the trilogy, Cormier versus Stipe Miocic. It's going to be a big preview for that one coming later in the week, so watch out for that. Any news you can think of off the top of your head before we wrap it up?
Not particularly. I think we were speaking before, just the Tyson Jones news, which is getting it pushed back. So, not unexpected for me. I think the longer they push this back, the more likely it doesn't happen. I hope it does, but I think they're saying it's a financial move and they want to just maximize money, which I'm sure they do. Yeah, but it is a bit worrying when they put these fights back, because I think it's happened before. I think Nigel Benn was meant to make a comeback in his 50s and he pushed his back and then he cancelled it. So let's hope they these two still go at it.
For sure. I think everyone wants to see that. But with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll speak to you later in the week.
Thanks, guys.